Hey everyone, we are here to play Streets of Rage 3, also known as Bare Knuckles or Bare Knuckle 3 in Japan, and we're actually playing the Japanese version. And by we, I mean with me as always is Corey. Say hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going?
So, my brother and I, a billion years ago, when this was a new game for what we called in America the Genesis, we bought the, American cartridge of this game, and the quality is still very high, but we were definitely disappointed. It seemed to drag on and wasn't as fun and was needlessly more difficult. And we discovered many years later that that was actually something that happened during the porting of the game for the US market. They actually messed around with stuff. They gave the Axel character sprite weird colors on his t-shirt and changed some other graphics and, messed around with some of the difficulty levels and stuff like that. So that's why we'll be playing the Japanese version to sort of have the game more as it was actually intended and just, from what I hear, a more fun experience. So with that said, why don't we dive right in? Does start work for you, Corey? Can you actually get it? Oh, I don't think you can, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's only for player one on this one. So,
All right.
yeah, I was less familiar with this one. I played two a good bit and the first game a good bit, but
Okay.
this one I'm coming in a little fresh with. So I'm glad we're playing the better version.
So let's jump into the game. Pressing start now.
Do we need to mess with any options first? I don't know what this game has.
That's a great point. If we can give ourselves extra lives easily, we might as well do that. Or players, as they're called, just like in Streets of Rage 2. Alright, 2 players. Alright. So I will be Axel for now. If I accidentally say Alex a couple million times instead of Axel, apologies. We're working on our own retro beat 'em up game, and we have our version of Axel, or also what was his name from Final Fight? I can't think of his name right now. Cody. Basically, he's named Alex in our game Metro Siege. So. Alright, so as usual in Streets of Rage games, there's a life hidden in the bottom left corner when you start level 1. And then the gameplay is very similar to Streets of Rage 2, only there's a few new moves. One of the most important ones is if you double tap up and down. Double tap up or down, you'll do an evasive roll, kind of in the Z depth of the game. Let's see.
Kind of does a Sonic the Hedgehog move.
Yeah, exactly.
But they did it in such a way though where it kind of looks natural, but said they were.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's
they
perfectly
were
fun.
probably saving art.
Sprites.
Or whatever.
Yeah, more important than anything, it's the number of horizontal sprites on a scan line. Because after a certain number of basically sprite pixels are displayed per scan line, you get the flicker. And since this game can have 2 pretty large players and a bunch of enemies and pick up items on screen, they definitely didn't want you to be able to do a lot during gameplay, a move that would make you take up a huge amount of horizontal sprites.
Right.
So, yeah. And also, it is true for memory for the cartridge size. Not only is there the sprite concern, but memory-wise, that would take... if the character needed to roll horizontally, which they actually do... Oh, why isn't that working? There's a way to escape when you get grabbed from behind. I thought it was quickly press attack and then jump, or jump and then attack, but I just tried it a couple times, and I guess my timing was off. I'll have to try again.
But I was surprised that even in the first level, some of the guys try to grab you.
Yeah, there are some of those guys. Yeah, that's one of the things that annoys me in Streets of Rage 3. As far as I can tell, your only hope if you do get grabbed is, aside from that kind of kick-out thing if they grab you from behind, but if they grab you from the front, you seem helpless unless you can do your super move. Which is a little definitely annoying. Like a really generic low-level thug can really... You can get that apple down here.
What's the purpose of those like meters in the middle between our life meters?
Yeah. Okay, so like most beat 'em up games back in the day, you basically used a little bit of your life before to do special moves, and now it's got its own meter that you build up, which I think is a big improvement. So you should see if you press, I think it's the A button, you'll do a super move, and then that meter empties out, and then you can't do the super move again until the meter fills back up.
I think it still lets you do it and utilize health if you hit it while it's filling. Yeah,
could be.
So
I was not aware of it. That's a good idea.
But that is a better way to
System,
do it. Still.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, level 1, and you're already fighting guys that can shoot you from long range.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got aggressive grabbing thugs and a guy with a gun in the first level. But definitely still, or at least from what I've heard. I think I have played the Japanese version a couple times since then, but in general, if I have an itch to scratch where I want to play a Streets of Rage game, Streets of Rage 2 is always my preferred game. It's less long and gets, it just never gets as kind of monotonous as Streets of Rage 3 tends to be able to get.
Yeah, I noticed with Blaze in particular, they gave her, they made her a little faster in this one, it seems like. She was a little clunkier in the second game.
Yeah, they definitely tweaked a few things, added a bit more sophistication to the general fighting mechanic with that, kicking out of a grab. You probably noticed if you accidentally grab your fellow good guy, basically your co-player, you could, I think it's just the jump button, and you'll just kind of vault over your friend and go flying, which is an attack to the enemies. So they added some things like that give you a bit more playing options. Some of the super moves get really fancy too. I forget in what circumstances, but basically your power moves become more powered up in certain circumstances.
Yeah.
Maybe I can find during editing and add some of that info in as a text overlay. Did you see that?
I've noticed. Yeah, I noticed even more than the characters. I don't know. It seems like the environment's got have a better color palette in the Japanese one. Maybe I'm wrong about that. It would be interesting to see some comparison.
Yeah, I'll look into that. And if there are differences, definitely Alex looks way better. Or Axel, sorry, I did it. Axel definitely looks better in the Japanese version. He's got the same outfit as Streets of Rage 1 and 2, whereas in the American version they really gaudied him up and gave him a bright yellow t-shirt, I think.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, but did you notice just before we entered this kind of locked... there, it just happened again. They did a palette shift to change the time of day over the course of the level. There we go.
Fancy stuff.
Yeah, it's one of the great things that was basically free from a technical standpoint on old classic 16-bit consoles. And these days, even on powerful systems in general, to change the whole time of day, you have to do a whole screen effect, like a shader effect or something like that, or have a big thing set to subtractive mode and overlay or something like that, whereas in the old days, you just literally change the RGB values of the different color indexes that the game uses, and at no cost to memory or processor speed, you've just changed the time of day, or did a cool screen flash effect when. All right.
One thing I found odd was at that last part where we were fighting the guy with the gun.
Yep, get that turkey.
The door opened to outside, and then suddenly we were inside at the next screen. You know what I mean?
Right,
and then we went outside, so that was a little odd. But
yeah, that's something we're trying to do in Metro Siege.
Oh man, wow!
In Metro Siege, we're trying to have a much more cinematic and sensible continuity to the flow of the levels and how you get from one to the other, and cutscenes from one level to another that sensibly tell the story, and the environment changes in a very natural way, as though you're actually a band of kind of vigilantes on foot making it through a couple of hours span of time to do whatever you're doing to fight this sudden army of thugs that are trying to take over your city. But that does remind me, I had started to say that I might not play Streets of Rage as well as I usually do, not only because we have to keep up a chat, but more importantly, I've been so used to playing our game Metro Siege as we develop it, and there's some things you do differently in Metro Siege, so I keep finding myself accidentally trying to initiate grab the same way you would in Metro Siege and stuff like that. So there's Shiva. He was the sub-boss before the end boss in Streets of Rage 2. So now he's an early on boss. And a pain in the butt.
Wow.
Oh wow, I just reversed it with the A button, I think that is. Yeah, there you go. Did you do the same? Did you use the A button?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't even know that. The other times I've played this game. And it is easy to forget we have that double tap evasive maneuver we could do. It's also a good way to just quickly get on the same attack level as the guy.
Huh.
Oh yeah, the other thing in Metro Siege, you can actually block, and if you time your block well, it automatically does a strong counterattack move. So, just another thing I'll occasionally accidentally try to do.
Yeah, you probably played it more than anybody that's worked on it. Yeah.
Metro Siege, yeah, a million times.
Yeah.
Probably Alex is the only one. And as we mentioned, just by the way, everyone, if this is the first video of ours you've seen, you might not know. Both Corey and I are professional pixel artists. We've been in the industry well over a decade and worked on a lot of titles. And we're big retro game fans in general also. And we've also done game design work. So a lot of times when we do a kind of a Let's Play video like this, we hammer on in more detail than most Let's Players would about pixels, technical constraints, and game design. So, yeah, what were we just talking about? Oh, Metro Siege, yeah, like that's a giant risk when you're developing a game, especially a game that usually has a fairly high difficulty level anyway, is the programmer and the designer end up so good at the game because they've played it a million times during every iteration. There we go, good job. That you get so good at it, you know the exact timing, you always know exactly what to do when, and you can make your game way too hard. So it's critically important to have, sorry about that, to have...
It's alright, I walked right into it.
It's really important to keep getting in fresh play testers to give you feedback, and never end up with an ego and go, oh no, these people are just idiots, they just suck at games or whatever. Like really take it to heart. I've seen it like really mess up a lot of games that otherwise would have been really fun and good when the team made themselves too isolated. And even the testers, even if they had specific game testers, even the testers have played the game so much, they take things for granted and they just develop absolutely perfect timing and knowledge of what to do in every circumstance for every enemy. And that's not something that you got to make sure that there's a really nice learning curve and difficulty curve of the game and from level to level. And you absolutely cannot and should not trust yourself. Once you've been working on the game for many months or years, you just can't. You can't trust your own judgment as to what is hard and what is not.
I've always been disappointed that so many of these brawlers, even modern ones sometimes, have that issue. Oh, I shouldn't have got that.
That's all right.
Have that issue of like the characters being off screen, but then kind of meandering and never coming on the screen. Yeah, absolutely. Where you can't hit them. I feel like there should have always been something that forces them to come into view faster or something. Yeah, you know,
make them code exactly. Make them pick a different spot vertically and run onto the screen around you to get behind you or something. Don't just let them. And like, because in almost every game you have to, if that happens, you basically have to walk away from the edge and kind of wait for them to decide to walk on screen. Or just play the kind of silly game of just, like I used to do that sometimes in Streets of Rage 3, just hang on the edge against some enemies and just keep doing the uppercut. And they'd eventually walk close enough to it that even though they're off screen, they'd get hit by it.
I think we even ran into that a little bit playing, what was it, The Takeover? I think we did a playthrough of that, and a kind of modern game, and it even had a few of those issues. Yeah.
That was a full-on bug. Not only did in general it could have that issue, but one enemy just never, no matter where we went on screen, there was just an enemy stuck somewhere. Like his AI was just completely stuck somewhere off screen, and we literally had to restart the game and use some kind of level select mode to finish the playthrough. So yeah, that was pretty nasty bug. I think after that fact, I had read on Steam that that bug had been fixed, but I'm not positive. All right, I know at least I partook in reporting the bug at that point. That's when the game was still relatively new, maybe not.
I enjoyed that game. Like I think it was a neat kind of modern take. They had a few. Like it gets repetitive and long, you know. Like as we've talked about, these games can be if they're not done well.
Yeah, that's the big risk, and that does bring up a point. Speaking of game design in general, especially if you're going to have a fast action game and a game genre that is the tendency. That's the one thing that brings down the fun factor of a great many of these games, is that if they go especially well beyond a half hour. I think the average playtime of this game is well over an hour. And you could really, it's the likelihood of it starting to feel really repetitive and monotonous is very high, and that was a problem for a lot of the games in this genre. And like we discuss this in other videos and stuff like this, but a big philosophy for us when we're making our retro style games, and especially action games, is there's more to value than just how long it takes you to play through the game. There's how much fun did you have playing it through, and was it so fun and did it never get boring, so that a half hour later you might want to play the game again. I would much rather play a game that's short but fun the whole time than play a game that's long but you're literally just bored and kind of forcing yourself to make it through to the end of the game out of a sense of completion. Like, you just feel like, oh, if I quit now, I'll feel like I've wasted the last 45 minutes or hour of my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and add to that the fact that they replicated thug designs in this one from the second game. I mean, it's slightly different, but you feel like the second and third game put together is like one long, you know what I mean? Like right. One really long grind.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to marathon both games back to back.
Right.
Like I said, I literally would rather play Streets of Rage 2 twice back to back than play Streets of Rage 2 and then this game. Like I said, it's just, and I'm remembering the worst case scenario, like we owned the American version, which is harder, and I think at least it seems, because it's harder, longer, because you end up dying and continuing more and taking more time to beat the enemies and bosses. But yeah, in general, like, to me, I think the sweet spot for a game like this is somewhere between 20-something and 30-something minutes for a skilled player to be able to get through the game. And
I like that, and maybe 2 had this too, but I like how even if you've got a weapon, if you start doing like a special move on somebody, you still get to keep the weapon or whatever afterwards. Maybe 2 did do that. I don't remember, but there's some games where they just make you drop
the weapon automatically. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
sorry about that.
Wow.
I did notice something really cool a few seconds ago in Streets of Rage 2 and 3. If you've been thrown as the player and hold up and tap jump just before you would hit the ground and get hurt, you'll land on your feet and not get hurt. But the cool thing is, I threw one of these women who are obviously very acrobatic, these enemies, and she landed on her feet without getting hurt. So that was a very nice touch. You know what I mean? It makes sense, and it's kind of, it's cool, and it keeps the game less repetitive if they make sure different enemies behave very differently. And some enemies, like, you'll end up remembering some enemies, you can throw them and they're just going to get hurt, but other enemies you have to fight in a very different way to quickly dispatch them. So, like, that's one of the ways to really make sure your game does stay. So one thing is make your game not so long that it gets repetitive, but also obviously try to be as creative as possible and introduce new variants to the gameplay. Introduce new enemy behaviors and new fighting mechanics, and like I was mentioning in Metro Siege, the you can do the block and the counter attack. So eventually there will be enemies in later levels that can do the same thing, and then bosses, you're going to end up learning. Like I was just talking to the programmer the other day. Eventually, I want it so every boss has at least one move that they're especially susceptible to a well-timed counterattack, and that'll do bonus damage and trigger a special animation. You know what I mean? Like, it's a similar thing to what we're doing in our other game we're working on, Damon Claw, where we really want that very visceral, rewarding visual and audio feedback to really let you know you've figured something out, you're doing an especially effective thing against this enemy, especially in boss fights. So rewarding the player with like a custom animation where, oh good, I landed on my feet. It just really keeps things interesting and fresh, and yeah, like I said, just keep mixing up behaviors. Have some enemies that move around quickly and are annoying and try to jab at you, so you really have to do very different maneuvering and footwork just to get within range of the enemy. And maybe those enemies you really need to move in fast with a jump kick or a high-speed jab, and then get in and grab them, or all those kind of things really help. If every enemy is just like, oh, you just line up with them and mash the attack button over and over again, that's, and there were a lot of games in this genre early on especially that kind of fell in that situation, because most of them were designed to be quarter eaters.
How did you flip out of the pit?
It just happens automatically when you fall in.
Oh, okay.
Basically, if you still have energy, life meter, and haven't died, you'll automatically jump back out of the pit. So, oops, there was a waste. I should mention that too. That's a perfect example. I mentioned you grab enemies differently in Metro Siege. You actually hold the attack button and tap forward, and to grab items, you hold the attack button for a second, or you hold it down and tap downward. And that makes it so you don't accidentally grab an item, or especially bad, a health replenishing, like what we call trash turkey. Especially, you could be at full health, and
this game, like, even more than trash turkey, just has floor turkey. Like,
yes.
Like we walked into that club and there were just two of them sitting there on the ground.
It's how they serve food. It's a very avant-garde restaurant. It's
right. Yeah, it's just there. You can sit down next to it. I guess.
Yeah, you just sit on the floor next to it. You might even just lay down with your face just on the turkey and just start chewing.
Right. I do appreciate with this environment they wanted to add that sort of wind effect, and they had all the various objects, like the little can rolling and stuff like that, to sell the whole wind.
Yeah, definitely. Those atmospheric effects. Oh yeah, I forgot we have to turn around and punch an iron or whatever kind of metal that is, bulldozer, and somehow that's stronger than a construction vehicle, and our fist with a leather glove on is stronger than steel, and we can actually make the driver decide to go in reverse. Makes perfect sense.
I guess this is where a second player
it's much more annoying and stressful in one player mode, because you constantly have to turn around and whack a giant sheet of metal to make a construction vehicle go in reverse from hell.
Yeah, maybe not. I guess this was their idea of sort of a mini game.
Yeah.
It was like they had that idea you were just talking about of mixing up the gameplay, but in a really silly way. I guess. In a way that's not,
Something that's easy to program and doesn't require animating whole other enemy sets and stuff like that. Doesn't take a ton of cartridge memory, and you know, you get the bragging rights in the back of the box, I guess, that there's other things going on beyond just fighting people.
Right, yeah.
Oops.
And there's
Oh,
a barrier.
interesting. Yeah, I should have.
Him.
I forgot that. No wonder Mike Punches no longer worked. I guess we're supposed to let him ram this and hurt himself.
Oh,
There you
wow.
go.
Always with the barrels.
So yes, the hyper vulnerable bulldozer, whatever you call that thing, plow thing, suddenly becomes indestructible, and that's our cue to stop trying to punch it. We should have known.
Right, yeah.
It's very sensible.
Now that we're not fighting bulldozers, we can get back to the... Yeah, that was an odd. I hadn't even seen that before, because maybe I had played this before but never got to that point or something. Right. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, especially if you don't have another player to play with, or if you've kind of already been spoiled with Streets of Rage 2. There's not a ton of incentive once you die to continue or whatever. It's just like, I like Streets of Rage 2 more.
I think for me it was, maybe I had moved on to some other games or something. Yeah. So I played the first two a little bit in the series, and then it was like this one came later, and maybe I was already, I don't know, playing a different system or playing different types of games. I'm not sure what the reason was, but it was more like it just didn't catch my attention when it came out as much, you know.
Yeah,
and it does, like, on the surface, when you start playing it, it does feel just like a rehash of 2 in a lot of ways. Like, it doesn't even play that different. I mean, it's... I would say the art is of the same caliber, you know?
I think it's a little better, but also, especially you had mentioned this before we started recording this video, in level 1 you just start in a very bland warehouse. They're not really establishing the scene of the city. There's no cool urban street with graffiti and litter, and you know, that this was an unintentional shameless plug of Metro Siege, but like most fighting games, you start in kind of an urban street. It sets the setting for the whole game.
We've only been on like one street so far, right? Like everywhere else it's been like these, like, look, where is this place? I mean,
you
know,
just teleport to different places. I mean, not that the continuity made a ton of sense in Streets of Rage 2. You go to a park and inside a funhouse because you know that actual aliens are there, and then you're fighting like robots and some kind of monsters and jetpacks and is this like a construction site bridge, or is this like the bridge level sort of redo, I guess? I don't know, maybe that's what it is. But you know, and that's the thing, like, you get with that repetitive thug thing, you know, like, you get some of these characters that look like they would have belonged in the nightclub but not here, or vice versa. You know, it starts feeling a little odd. You know, you're just like, why are these people hanging out here? You know? I really go on a big rant about themes and not kind of wasting all of your range of enemies and stuff like that in your first level or two. In our Let's Play video of, what is that, Rastan Saga 3, I think? Yeah, Rastan 3, Rastan Saga, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was it, yep. We talk about it extensively. They went to the extreme, though. Like, that one's even more blatant. Like, this, it kind of, you know, you expect, with it being Mega Drive, that you're not, you know, you're going to be seeing the same guys over and over.
In general, they're just all thugs, so the incentive to do specific themes, which was much higher in that Rastan Saga 3 game, because we're talking about really, like, you've got fishmen, and you know, you might have dragon men that can glide, and birdmen, or whatever.
Yeah, they had wildly different, like an undead guy and all this, like, skeleton or something. Yeah, they had completely different guys.
Yeah, and just in every level. So you've got like a generic forest, and then there's undead and fishmen fighting side by side with each other against you. It's like, man, you must have really pissed off I'm fighting a clone Alex, or we are, I should say.
That's weird.
I think they introduced the whole plot of Reploid replacement robots this way,
okay.
which I was never a fan of in any game. That was him that escaped, by the way. So the bad guy, I mean. Yeah, that's him again. Don't even try grabbing him. Apparently, he's just gonna do his super immediately.
The Bimmy and Jimmy.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, I mean that's kind of where that came from in old day video games. Is it was just a cheap way to save memory, which was priceless. That I just got thrown. That's the bad guy still.
Oh yeah. It does throw you a little bit because he's barely different. You know, just the.
I'm being reminded me of a great episode of the original Tick cartoon series, and boy, he's really kicking my butt here.
But there was a great one where a villain, kind of mad scientist style villain. He was a space alien though. He cloned the Tick, but accidentally the Tick had a cold, and he cloned him with some of his snot for the DNA. So it was like a snot clone of the Tick. And he was also idiotic. Oh no, it was actually that did happen, but it was Arthur, the sidekick, that got cloned. And Tick, because Tick's he's nigh indestructible, but he's also an idiot, so he couldn't figure out, like, he had grabbed both Arthurs.
Remember that time my sister gave me that V-neck sweater vest for my birthday, and we tried to return it to the store, and they'd only give me credit, and I was so upset, and then at lunch they put onions on my cheeseburger after I expressly asked the waitress not to. Do you remember that day, Tick?
Oh, indeed I do. Now your turn.
Arthur.
So he's still not sure.
I can't argue with that.
That was a pretty good cartoon. Yeah, they had a lot of good stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the clone thing. It's such a. It's been like, even when this was done, like it was an overdone kind of trope, you know. So
this was when the tracks are rumbling, you have to pay attention to whether it's the upper or lower track. That lets you know where one of those cars is going to come, and it does a lot of damage. So it just rumbled a little on bottom, so stay up high.
Right.
All right. And don't forget, you could double tap up or down to quickly get out of the way of it.
Okay.
All right, now there's one up high. It is nice that it hits the enemies too.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. It's always annoying in a game where for no reason, like something like flame or an explosion, it only hurts the players. It's like, oh, that's bad guy flame. It knows not to burn enemies that run into it. Use your power.
Whoa.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were grabbed from the front, so you may have been helpless, but I would hope
I think he kept grabbing me like over and over.
And re-grabbing?
Yeah, that was odd.
Go ahead and grab that other apple. But I did notice that, of course I'm saying that, but another one's going to come down low really quickly, I think. Oh no, it was just vibrating the whole screen because one was about to come. Alright, so now one's going to come on the top there.
This isn't too bad of a game mix-up.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a good, creative, but sensible way to mix up the gameplay a bit and give the players something else to worry about. But that's another thing. Like I said, in Metro Siege, you can't accidentally grab an enemy or your fellow player. And like this level, it's detrimental to not accidentally grab an enemy, because then you're standing there like an idiot, like a sitting duck, to get plowed over by one of these, mine car type things. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a problem. It's everyone does that. See, this is what happens in a game when you can accidentally grab people and items that you don't want. And amazingly enough, I don't know of any other game back in the day that actually solved that problem. But oops, sorry. Luckily you didn't get hit by it somehow. But yeah, in Metro Siege, those are a non-issue. You don't accidentally grab stuff or people that you don't want. Which is
it definitely feels like it should be intentional.
Exactly.
I don't know, especially when it's the other player. That's kind of
exactly.
like I couldn't even like let go of you. You know what I mean? Like maybe it was a way, but I couldn't even figure out how to just stop doing the move. So I was like, well, yeah.
As far as I know, the only option is, I think it's the jump button, and you'll basically launch yourself off of me without hurting me, and it'll be like full screen width attack that can like bowl down enemies. But it's so easy to forget how to do it, or and accidentally just hurt your fellow player, and just gum both of you up so that you both get hit by these minecart things or whatever. It's definitely one of the most annoying and frustrating things in this whole genre, is the accidental grabbing and accidental item grabbing.
Yeah.
Get out of the way. My double tap up wasn't responding the first time I tried it. So it gets a little stressful.
Something tells me they wanted this to be more like a subway, and then they just maybe decided to change it because they couldn't figure out how to do a full train.
That is a good point. There is almost no parallax in this level. Like maybe way up there in the upper left corner, that might parallax. I didn't notice. But it really didn't have to. So they could have used a whole scrolling layer to do a full-on subway train. But then there would have been the issue of really complicated Z order switching between the sprite. Oops, I almost rolled up into that like a dummy. Between the character sprites and this whole scrolling layer. I don't even know if that would have been possible to handle.
It just, to me, it feels like with all that rumbling, the thing that goes by feels like it shouldn't be making that much rumbling.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's just to make it obvious so you don't miss it. And but yeah, it's small. It feels like you should just be able to fairly easily jump right over it, or that it wouldn't even hurt you that bad. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess it's good that you can roll up into these tunnels or walk up into these tunnels.
So they keep doing it in this.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very minor variant, but it's not a big enough variation on the gameplay. I think it's overstayed its welcome now, this gameplay mechanic. Yeah. This is what I mean by it starts to get monotonous. Switch to another thing.
You wanted it just to break. You've already got these new enemy types. Like, let us just fight those guys a little while and get used to them without the minecart. Yeah.
Yeah. Up into the safety of the tunnel. Hopefully they'll get themselves killed there. Nice. Might as well grab the apples. There they are off screen playing their own game. There, finally.
Right, yeah.
Oopsie. Accidentally grabbed someone I didn't want to and got hurt. But not to sound super negative of this game, you know, it's still a AAA quality game and one of the better beat 'em ups out there. But in general, too, it just has a better balance. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Yeah. So, in general,
it's not. It's not that it's a bad game by any means. It's just, you know, like when you have the second game before this, and then this one feels like it's not quite as good, you know? I don't know. It really... They set their own bar too high, I guess, you know?
Yeah, but when you combine not quite as good in general and then too long, you just have a game that almost no one, if they owned both games, almost no one would go, I really want to play 3 instead of 2. Unless they just have a lot of, you know, an hour and a half to kill. But I want to test something while we're still in this level. Can you come up into this tunnel with me? I want to see if they disabled players grabbing each other since they're forced into the... Look, they did. So they know it's an annoying issue. Oh, you can't attack either. Look at that. Wow. Right. So we don't hit each other and so we don't grab each other. I mean,
so technically you could do the whole level like this because the enemies can't come up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'd have to keep scrolling to the whole... Oh, yeah, they can't even walk up there. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, they could just get... Oh, they can get out of the way of the thing, though. Yeah, well...
But yeah, so in general, I mean, it's just like they came up with this idea, and then they ran into incredibly frustrating gameplay of the players hitting and grabbing each other up there. So then they basically, if you have an idea in theory that sounds good, and then in the actual gameplay it just doesn't work and is annoying and frustrating, if you have to make these many concessions and it's like, oh, there's no fighting up there, oh, you know, suddenly grabbing doesn't work up there in general, you might want to rethink and just say, is it worth keeping this idea, especially since the previous level already put used to this rumbling track, there's a minecart type thing coming that's, you know what I mean? Like, we've already experienced the best version of it, why drag it on?
And another problem with it too is, like, no matter how long it takes you to defeat the guys, those will just keep coming in the same intervals.
Yeah.
Which is like, it makes it less special. That's when it becomes repetitive, and you're just like, oh, okay, the minecart's about to go by.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of like, it needs to be more of a special event, I would say. You know, make it happen less or something. Or maybe you hit a button up there and it makes it go by. Who knows? You know, whatever.
Yeah.
But
that is a really cool... I've never seen a Mega Drive game do that. That invisible effect where it was displacing the graphics of the background.
Yeah.
I can't even figure out how they pulled that off right now. Because, like, yeah, like the Amiga, which is an old 16-bit computer that was strong enough to be competitive from a technical standpoint with things like the Mega Drive and SNES to some degree. It relied on Blitter, on just raw background graphics drawing for all its moving objects in general. And because of that, you could do things like manipulate the background graphics very easily. And there was a high-quality shmup called Battle Squadron, which was the first time I had ever seen that effect. It's almost like a heat wave effect, but it's kind of like the Predator, you know, some kind of cloaking technology or magic effect that is exactly what you saw in this guy when he was just appearing. And so I know how they did it on the Amiga, but trying to figure out how they pulled that off on the Mega Drive, which is tile-based background graphics and sprites for the moving objects. That's very impressive.
It's possible since they can use the
same color palette.
Same palette. Like maybe they just made that a manual effect, and that was part of his sprite and animation or something.
Yeah, that might very well be the case. They may have just had an animated sprite. They knew he was going to always appear in that one spot. So they just animated the sprite to use the background palette and have a pre-made by the artist animation of the graphics being displaced. Definitely a good guess. But he's moving around pretty freely there in the invisible state, so however they did it, kudos to them.
Nice. Yeah, that was a pretty cool boss battle, actually.
Yeah.
He did a lot of interesting things, you know?
Yep. That was weird.
I'm not sure why we had a minecart level, though, that led to that kind of boss.
Yeah.
But, you know,
it's again, the continuity thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So to bring that point back up in Metro Siege, we're trying to go back to the original influence that all the Japanese studios that made beat-em-up games, they were copying and kind of getting inspiration from these Hollywood 80s and 90s vigilante type movies. And but when it came to creativity in these games, they just started becoming more and more outlandish. Like Final Fight, which was one of the first, in Double Dragon, aside from the more cartoony art, they were more down to earth, and you know, less weird stuff like aliens and robots all of a sudden. But then as it progressed, Final Fight started to get a little weird, where suddenly you were fighting a football player samurai guy in some wrestling ring. That was Final Fight. And then similarly, it gets really weird in Streets of Rage 2, where are we supposed to kick a door down or something? Or is there oh yeah, you're just supposed to know that you're
right.
But yeah, you suddenly
I was about to say, like, what you mentioned about Final Fight having more grounded sort of ideas, you know, for the content. maybe that lends itself to why they felt the need to go a little more zany with this series, you know, because
Yeah.
they were the direct competitor, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of those things, like those kind of marketing and what is quality ideas that kind of took over. Is everyone started thinking, and the marketing was, you judge the value of a game based on how long it takes you to beat the game the first time. So they started padding all kinds of games and making them monotonous. It's kind of like my continuous joke is, oh, the game takes 80 hours to play, but to beat. But you spend 70 of those 80 hours in the forest just grinding, killing like woodland creatures to build up your level or something. It's like, is that really value? You know what I mean? Whereas I would much rather play, like I said, a short game that stays very fun the whole time. And its replay value, to me, that's, especially for an action game, that's so much more real value. And games should be all about fun. And not about bragging how many hours it takes to grind through a game.
I kicked only you in that crowd.
Yeah.
That was funny. Oh, wow.
Same thing. I think there is an option to turn off the ability to hit your fellow player. That would definitely make it a little more enjoyable. Like, that is something, like, in Metro Siege, you do not accidentally hit your fellow player. The only way you can is to throw an entire enemy. Like, if you throw a giant human body or a human body across the room, there's a good chance if someone else is there, you're gonna accidentally hit them. But if you're throwing a punch or a kick, the odds that you accidentally hit someone you don't intend to is ridiculous. And similarly, in almost every fighting game ever, or I think everyone I've ever seen, except Metro Siege, you throw a jab, and there can be a crowd of like 5 enemies in front of you, and your fist magically is like a hammerhead shark. So it doesn't look it, but your fist can magically hit 5 people at the same time.
Like all in a row, like
Not even in a row, just all of them at
Yeah.
the same time. Like literally, your fist became super wide, like a hammerhead shark head, and you can magically jab or punch 5 people at the same time. So that's another thing you can't do in Metro Siege. When you're attacking a group of people, you hit the person closest to you, but the other people, they're programmed to not stay inside each other so much, and if you hit one enemy and they kind of reel back from the attack or get knocked back, that can bump the other enemies behind them. So it's a much more realistic and kind of gratifying physical interaction with the enemies. It makes them less like, oh, this is programmed AI enemies that you need to button mash to kill that happen to resemble humanoids but don't behave like. Oh yeah, that's a nice touch. In this game, when you try to body slam one of the fat guys, they're too heavy, so you just you fall under their weight and you take damage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so don't throw these guys. And remember, like I said, that's the good way. That's the kind of creativity I think really keeps a game interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there was this idea. So there was this idea that the longer it takes to beat a game, the more quote-unquote value. And then the other one is raw creativity for the sake of raw creativity. So the more outlandish, the better. And so people started not recognizing good creativity like what I just explained. Like, oh, the heavy guy, if you try to pick him up, you'll get hurt. That's great. That's actual sensible creativity that lends to the gameplay and enriches the gameplay. You know what I mean? It's not like
the bad guy or whatever. His name was Hart. Like, did you notice that?
No, that's
what an
funny.
odd name.
Yeah.
Or if they changed that in the American version.
Oops, sorry about that.
But
We had one of those situations like you had where the only person I did not hurt was you. With my, or that I did hurt was you. Sorry. Anyway. Yeah, from a technical standpoint, kind of in checklist mode, this game is an improvement on Streets of Rage 2. More moves, better graphics, more memory, more variety of enemies. But the more important thing, the fun factor and does it get boring, that's where they drop the ball. In my opinion. And a lot of other people.
Yeah, you're like, I feel like in the first game too, even though it does get a little weird with some of the environments you go to,
Yeah.
it just felt like it had a more interesting progression of levels. This one, it feels a little like they didn't bother to try as hard with the
It's like
places you were in.
It's like when you mentioned the elevator and you said, "Oh, this is like the enhanced version of the bridge level," right? Like what I thought you meant, and I think you did, is the bridge level from Streets of Rage 2, and that's what it feels like. It feels like they had a checklist of we've got to outdo all of these things that we've done. Oh, this is right out of Streets of Rage 2. This elevator scene.
Right.
Like, they literally took the graphics right out of Streets of Rage 2. At least as far as I can tell from memory. But yeah, like, that's one of those worries. That, like, I call that Christmas list game design. And it's easy to fall into. It's like, one of the better examples of that, even though it's a masterpiece game, was Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo. Brilliant game, but even it started to fall into that trap of, oh, we're going to give you 1 million different items that you discover and different power. The enemy grabbed the power up. That was cool. I mean, the health replenish, the trash turkey.
Yeah.
So, like, that's good creativity. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, like, I feel the same way. It's like, you reach a point, like, I think even in, like, Super Metroid, like, you don't have to have all of the power-ups to beat the game. Like, you could even beat it with, like, you know, like 40% of that stuff or something.
But worse than not needing it, it's the idea of you could either... They started to become too similar to one another, and then it becomes a mess of fishing through menus and going, which one and then to make it even worse, it's like, oh, you can combine different weapons with other different weapons or whatever, and it'll make another variant weapon. And it's like, that's value, and then no matter what, the more you do that, the less time the designers and playtesters have to really perfect and make sure the features in the game are fun. Yeah, that's really annoying that I can hit you with every move I do. We'll have to remember that if we ever play this game again or are forced to restart because we run out of continues. We'll see if we can turn off hitting each other.
Yeah, you're forced into that gameplay mode where you just can't. You gotta be on different sides of the screen or something.
Yeah. So I should mention, there are other moves I didn't mention yet. There's a back attack where you hold attack and then tap and jump, and you'll do a back attack. There's a few things like that. I can't currently remember the other ones.
I noticed, like,
forward. Yeah.
I noticed, like you said, with the 6-button thing, if I use some of the other buttons, like she'll do like the leg sweep or whatever, or the back attack, I guess is what you were saying.
Yeah.
Which can be done either way, like you can do it the special way, or I guess that's neat that they put that in. Yeah. I guess it makes the game a little easier for people.
Yeah, it just makes it more convenient. You don't have to do a sequence to get out a move. I definitely appreciate stuff like that. When, you know, designers are kind of working out all that kind of, like the really sensible features in a game. Like, that became the norm by this point. A ton of people had the 6-button controller, so you might as well support it, but make it unnecessary, but it just kind of makes it even easier to play the game. We'll skip these, especially since I can't read Japanese anyway. So I think this is a false ending scene. I'm guessing this is a robot. Spoiler alert. I say after I say it, but I don't remember for sure. But yeah, no, the game is much longer than this, unless we did something accidentally that made it the shortest version of the game with a less good ending or something, but I don't think so. I think the game's going to continue quite a bit longer beyond this Mr. X fight. And I would say quite a bit too much longer.
This has been, I guess, what, about over like 30 minutes in or something, at least, so far. Yeah, this is where you're reaching that point where if you go longer than about 45 minutes with this kind of game, it starts to feel too long, you know? I noticed when I was looking at long plays for this, they were all they were all in
an hour and 20 minutes.
yeah, pretty
30
long.
minutes.
I was like, wow, some of these go on a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was making us debate. Should we do a let's play of this video next? You know what I mean? Because our time is pretty compressed right now. We both have kind of day job work as pixel artists on top of working on our own projects and, you know, investing that time, that extra almost hour to play this over, you know, one of the games we'll probably do at some point is like Golden Axe 2 or 3, which are much shorter games. Especially one of them, I can't remember. I think Golden Axe 1. No, 2 I think is shorter than 3 if I recall. But anyway, yeah, it's alright, so we're gonna have the fight now since Shiva, we already killed Shiva or Shiva. So, yeah, he's a robot. Boy, his head is really big in that animation where he's revealing his robot form.
Oh wow. Got guns too. Not good.
Heat Seeker.
He's a very Terminator looking
Yeah.
robot, you know.
Well, yeah, that sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
And that's the only, like, that was the kind of quote-unquote creativity that tended to happen. Like, what movie is popular at the moment? That's why in Streets of Rage 2 you suddenly had H.R. Giger style type aliens in a otherwise normal street fighting game. It's like, you know, that was cool at the time that movie came out. So this must have been around the time of peak Terminator popularity. I have no idea if that's the case.
This isn't bad. This isn't badly done though. Like this fight isn't too cheap, and I do appreciate how when he shoots the missiles, like they put the lighting on him. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
they made it light up his torso or whatever. So it's pretty neat. Yeah.
But it's pretty funny, just like the bulldozer. It's like, haha, I'm a futuristic robot, but regular knuckles and getting thrown to the floor decimate me.
Right. In retrospect, the dithering on the portraits didn't age too well.
Yeah, that's that whole CRT TV and monitor versus modern day. It's a good thing to keep in mind. Yeah, I'll skip this. So, yeah, there was the plot twist, which we already should know because we fought a clone of Alex in one of the first levels. All right, this is where it can get super annoying and ungratifying, at least in the American version. There's all this BS. Do you see that timer flashing there? That's a real timer, and if we don't do a certain thing at a certain time, then we get the bad ending. And let's see. And which makes it especially frustrating when enemies can just linger off the side of the screen. So you're like, hurry up, I gotta beat this guy. And oh yeah, don't forget, you could tap forward twice and run if you hold.
We'll have to...
Right, so you see how you could choose to go up or down? We can only go down apparently here. Oh. But this is literally like a maze that might even randomize itself. Let's go this way. What? I know, like, it's so frustrating. It doesn't even give you an arrow to let you know, okay, you can go to the right now. But these are the kind of things I think is just a big mistake to add in an action fighting game. It's like, oh, you could have played incredibly well, but kind of arbitrary nonsense like, oh, you have to go into rooms and find a key card in time, and we're going to give you that kind of time stress, and you could have played brilliantly, but you'll get a bad ending or whatever because of randomized nonsense. It reminds me of, like, there's a modern remake of the what is that game called? The famous Sega mascot that was really big in places like Brazil and the UK. Why can't I think of it? Alex Kidd. So they did that modern remake, but they kept. I can't throw it. There you go. I can't throw it. There you go. So at least when I throw you, you don't get hurt. You automatically land on your feet, unless you did that accidentally. But what was the point of that room? You know what I mean? Just to waste our time.
Yeah.
And now we've got more enemies to kill. So I guess if we kill these guys near this door will open? I don't know. But
strange.
I hate arbitrary. And all the while, we need to get a card or some stupid nonsense. and ride
Is
the
that what we're
elevator.
looking for? Like,
Yeah,
it
so-
didn't say that, did
Nope.
it?
Well,
like-
maybe it did in Japanese to some degree. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
But still, it like so many arbitrary things that like is that. Oh yeah, and there's electricity on the floor to screw us over while we're trying to kill all these. I think the one good thing, at least the timer stops when you're in these rooms, which also makes no sense. Like they could have just given you more time or avoided the whole stupid timer thing in the first place.
Yeah, I think they should have. If they were going to make it maze-like, where you're trying to find where to go for the first time in the game, then yeah, the timers just drop the
Oh, get the
timer.
turkey, because when we get kicked out of the room, you won't have... More nonsense. You're forced out of the room. Alright, let's... So we did not get any kind of key card, so we need to go back, I think, to the other room and hope. And we can't go in here until we kill more random enemies. Go ahead and get
That's
that apple
weird.
while you can. Meanwhile, time's gonna run out and, like, the whole building's gonna blow up and we're gonna die or something insanely dumb. Alright, go up. There should be a computer count. This is it. So we gotta destroy this computer.
Before we kill the guys.
Well, at the same
or-
time, during, after, it doesn't matter, but that's
Okay.
how, like, we unlock the elevator to the right way, and then you gotta know what the right way is. Like, what floor? Duh, I don't know. You randomly guess against the timer. Like, I don't know if it's randomized every time you play, but either way it's stupid, because you're basically helpless and it's based purely on chance the first time you play. Like, that's best case scenario, is the first time you play you'll be incredibly annoyed and frustrated.
I feel like that the timer thing wore out its welcome in the old days. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I understand why they would put it in certain types of games, but when you're just adding it to something like this or some platformers and stuff,
Right.
it started to feel like, why is this timer here? Like,
Right.
the worst thing was running out of time, especially in a game where you had plenty of time. Like, you're playing like Ninja Gaiden or something, you know, and you run out of time to beat the level.
Right.
You're like, why did that even have a timer?
Especially after you've invested like 45 minutes or whatever. We need to get to this
Yeah.
elevator, but we can't because of this one guy. We can arbitrary screen locking. There we go. Alright, so we went down, right?
Yeah.
I guess let's try going up. I don't remember. I really don't remember. This is pointless.
Would we end up back where we were?
But we might be able to go up more, is my thinking.
Oh.
Since we found that computer thing. I'm really go... Nope, we can't go... Alright, so let's go down twice. Hopefully it'll let us and we don't have to beat a bunch of enemies for no reason. Okay, so we're in a new place, but the timer's about to run out, so...
Okay.
We'll see what happens and, you know, we get blown up for our efforts. But that's the most frustrating thing. You add a critical timer-based thing after you've already invested like 45 minutes in the game. Yeah, so that's letting us know we're about to be screwed. Alright, let's go into one of these rooms. Oh, gas! We're getting gas to death. So now our health is going to just keep... Oh, you can't jump. Those beams will hurt you.
Okay. This is the weirdest level I've ever seen in any brawler.
Yeah, epilepsy warning, everyone. Sorry. This game was made before such concerns. Alright, so that was a useless room, and we're going to be poisoned by the gas. That's what it is. See
So
the gas
they've
coming
got-
out of those things?
Yeah, so they got poison gas, death lasers, timer on a bomb. Like, this is like the torture level. Like,
Yeah.
whatever game designer was like, I'm gonna like add all these traps. You
Yeah.
know, like.
Challenge is fine. Anxiety
You're right.
based on randomization and nonsense like that, and like, how is that fun? How is that
I
valued?
know. Especially, I mean.
Did we finish destroying that, or is it partially destroyed? No,
I-
it's partially destroyed. Yay.
Okay. Yeah.
Luckily, I know I did. I remember the way the animation looks. I did fully destroy the other one. Imagine if you could leave the room having only partially destroyed it, and then you'd have to go back, figure out which one you only partially destroyed. Like, shouldn't any stress level in playing a game like this being based on your skill level, how tough but fair enemies are, and you know what I mean? That kind of thing, not this kind of stuff. Did we do
Right.
this room yet? Oh yeah, we don't need to do any of these
so.
other rooms. We already did the computer.
Right.
But I mean, I do think.
But
already,
the guys are back anyways. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They're just back in the same room that only has one exit or whatever.
But I do think it was worse. If I recall, in the American, I just jumped like an idiot. In the American version, I'm pretty sure the you die way faster from the gas. So let's run back to the elevator because we did destroy the machine. All right, so there's no down. Okay, so now we try going up all the way.
So it gives you the arrow, but it lets you try to punch it,
Yep.
right? But it just won't go. That's weird. That's not good.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we can. Our only option is to go back to the right. So you see how quickly we're dying now from the gas.
Yeah.
Fun. All right, here. The door's open.
Right.
Yeah. Can we do anything? Accidental grab. We can't. Can you go through this? So we could
No.
go through closed doors. Oh, wall. Do we have to destroy a fake wall? What is
This is
happening?
where we came from at the start. So there's got to be a different level. And we're about to
No,
die
you don't
again.
understand. This is fun.
Do we have to go up higher? Is that the way it goes? Is there like a helicopter waiting at the top of the place? or
Theoretically, but we must have not destroyed one of the machines. So we'll check all the rooms again while we're getting quickly drained of our lives and presumably limited continues. We'll say, I'm pretty sure we did that. Oh, maybe not though. Who knows? Who remembers?
something? Yeah, double check it. At least we know where some trash turkeys are.
Yeah.
We need them.
If we
But
can
except I
survive
just
long enough to
died,
get
yeah.
them. Exactly.
Ooh.
Alright, hopefully you have a continue. I mean, it seems like what we're going to have to do, though, is just go on the internet, read an explanation or cheats on how to... Oh, there's Zan. At least the people get to see another character. For an annoying little additional nuisance, that little electric bolt takes like half your health meter.
Yeah, I
Then you come
know.
out here and you're getting poisoned to death at a very quick rate. It would have been cool if they made Zan impervious to the poison gas.
Yeah,
so this
something.
is destroyed, but we still have to destroy these arbitrary enemies to leave the room. How did these enemies respawn in this room? How are they, you know what I mean? We don't know. But in order to walk out a door, we need to kill them all.
Magical ceiling. And why are they in here if they're gassing the place or blowing it up?
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
should
they're
just not even
escaping the
be
gas
there.
themselves. That's it. That's it. They're seeking refuge from the gas. But yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna have to just, you know, we'll run out of continues. We'll find on the internet the guide to how to beat this game, and then like use a cheat to get back to the end level. Because that's what you want in a fighting game. You need to, you know, back in the day there was no internet like that. So you'd literally have to call some Sega, you know, pay per minute line or buy a guide magazine or something. Yay, fun. Let's see if there's another door here. Who knows? Have we done this one yet? Is there 2 computers on one floor? I don't know. A treasure
Money
room.
in here.
And is it me or does the gas seem... Oh, this was closed before. There we go. This is new.
Is this where we needed to go to beat the level, or?
Yeah, but it
Oh.
was locked before.
Okay.
But, oh, the timer ran out, so the guy was dead. So we're going to get a bad ending. I think that's the case. I think he died from the gas. So we didn't rescue him. We just found his corpse and then continued on to this roof.
So I guess that guy didn't have any continues, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, well, at least we knew he was the real one and not a replacement robot.
Right.
I do say, though, if this is the ending, it does feel a lot less obnoxiously long than the American version. And I don't know if that's literally because they made the American version longer by extending levels, or it just is longer because the enemies take longer to kill and stuff like that.
possible that was the deal, is that they wanted to just extend the time of it, and rather than add content. That was what I was curious about, is if there's a difference in the actual amount of levels or something, you know.
To my recollection, they only removed a little content,
Right.
like a certain boss character early on.
Right.
But so I'm pretty sure any lengthening of the game was completely cheap and arbitrary ways to lengthen it, like just giving enemies and bosses a health meter, stuff like that.
Guy's still alive when we beat it. That's strange.
So we've not
You're
completely
thinking-
beaten the game yet.
Okay.
Oh, maybe we did. Yeah, no, that's our friend. This is one of the endings. The president or whoever that we're trying to rescue, he's dead.
Yeah, I predicted it. Helicopter. Of course, I knew.
Yes.
That would be the case.
So I'll try not to press the start. Imagine if we skipped the ending entirely accidentally. But yeah, so I'll just press the buttons.
I mean, if you accept that the dithering here, looked okay on a CRT
blurry.
TV or whatever, then I do think all the cutscene graphics and portrait stuff is pretty decent in this.
Yeah.
I would say better than the previous game.
There is another level.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so maybe I was wrong. Maybe the Japanese version is also obnoxiously long.
Right.
Or if not obnoxious, monotonous, and, you know.
That seemed pretty epic to just kind of go to another level, I guess. But
I think I think this is in front of the White House, if I recall. Yep, there's the White House.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Or State House? I can't remember. Some important government building. I think it's supposed to be the White House. Or maybe the White House is later on. I don't. But that architecture doesn't look quite right. It's missing the dome.
See, now the guys I know the guys in suits with guns always kind of fit, but now it looks even more real because they're in front of a official place.
Yeah, it's just a shame they're one of the most poorly drawn enemies. They've got oddly short legs, and they're drawn like they're supposed to be bigger than normal characters, but they're kind of small compared to even Axel. So, definitely the enemy that's my least favorite visually.
What is this? I guess some kind of glowy ball hand or something.
Oh yeah, that's one of your special attacks.
Yeah, this guy's pretty neat. I think he's better than the big hulking guy from the second game.
Max, yeah. He's my brother always used to play Max in Streets of Rage 2, and I think Dr. Zan is the character he would control in Streets of Rage 3 when we would play it.
Yeah, they just decided to do a completely different type of guy instead of the the typical brawler.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's supposed to be the White House. It's still missing its dome, though.
Where is it? Right.
I think it's...
the Capitol building has the dome.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. Oops.
Yeah, it still doesn't look right, though. It looks plain.
Simplified.
Yeah.
Ah.
But I mean, it was refreshing getting to this environment after that last, whatever level, building, death building, something.
Yeah. They did do a surprisingly kind of novice pixel art. I won't call it a mistake, but bad judgment on the floor there. They use such a dark color for the gap between each, we'll call it floor tile, which makes it seem unnecessarily high contrast and like a giant gap in between each floor tile. But to exacerbate things, they also added that highlight to each tile. So each tile is really screaming, "Hey, I'm a,"
And they have a couple of grays there. It looks like in between to work with.
Just,
so they could have
use a dark gray instead of an almost black for that, and consider not putting that highlight edge there, and it'll look less distracting and more just pleasant and more natural.
Oh. soundtrack going on, or whatever you would call it. Dance.
Yeah, that guy grabbed me from the front, and I was able somehow to escape with my regular A button super move. But I've tried that like 4 or 5 other times in the game, and I just kept getting my butt kicked until they were done with me. Even though I had my magic, or special attack meter full, and was rapid pressing the A button. So maybe you need specific timing with the A button, I don't know.
I'm surprised to see that this sand guy is faster than I thought. Like, I thought he would be the slow character, like in the other game, but he's not.
Interesting, we're getting quite a bit of lag now. Have you noticed
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, the game was practically pausing for a split second a couple of times there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not the game. I think it's because of our online play, and now, my computer's been recording a video of all this for the last hour plus.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll not get any worse so we can wrap this game up.
Is that what he does when he picks up weapons?
Yep. Oh yeah, that's right. It transforms into the glowy ball, so any weapon works with him. It just kind of gives him a temporary advanced attack. You can shoot it out the same way you can throw. Like if you initiate what's usually your back attack, I think. You hold attack and then tap jump. I think you can throw the fireball. Something like that.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, because I thought it was something I was pulling off accidentally, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing.
Oh, right, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot of like little nuanced details I've long forgotten because, like I said, even when we owned this game, we would just opt to play Streets of Rage 2, and I owned the full collection of all the variants of this game for Xbox, Xbox One, and my brother and I have played online, and we always choose to play. Like, I think just for curiosity, once we found out the Japanese version of this was better than the American version, I think we played through it once, but after that curiosity was satisfied, we'd still just rather play Streets of Rage 2. That was annoying.
Yeah.
He was partially off screen, but not completely, but his collisions were active. You were punching right through his fat gut, and nothing was happening.
I think that's the thing, like with Streets of Rage 2, they were clearly able to artistically and gameplay wise make it better than the first one. You know what I mean? Like it was a pretty big step up.
Giant
but
step
this
up.
one feels very much like it's the same engine, and they just kind of changed the art a little bit, mixed up a little bit of the environments, and it's not that. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like a technical step up, really. But.
Alrighty.
What?
So yeah, we exposed him as a fake, and suddenly he's Shiva, which I guess is the real Shiva, the first one we killed. I don't remember. I guess it was a robot.
Sorry.
Who knows? Or this is a robot. But that's what I was expecting. I was expecting the guy behind the podium to, like, we revealed him to be a robot. But no, it's Shiva. But maybe it's a Shiva. It's like those Russian dolls, one inside the other, inside the other. Like, we'll beat him and he'll be a robot.
Then his robot will have a robot inside of it.
Yeah. And then you destroy that robot and open the head, and there's a little tiny alien driving.
It's like,
from like
an actual life form driving the robot.
Yeah, that's the final Russian doll. Is a little alien like that. That was in one of the first good Men in Black movies back in the day.
Right. Yep. They got pretty quirky with the.
Oh, I just found 2 lives hidden in the crowd there.
Oh.
And they were right in the same spot, so my rapid button pressing ruined the chance for you to get one of the lives.
Yeah, that's alright.
Well, I'm just making that point of the accidental grab thing again. It's
Right.
like, he blocked me from behind. He was blocking you forward, and I attacked him from behind, and he just magically blocked us both. But wait, there's more.
Right. That was
think.
all on TV. They filmed it all. So.
Alright, some more stuff happens. The plot thickens. Okay.
Right, yeah.
So there's no way Shiva is the final boss unless this is just a bad ending because the president died from the gas. Is he happy or angry? He's angry.
So that's kind of what they did, like a bunch of trick final bosses in this. Oh, yeah.
So I think this is the bad ending because we let the president get gassed to death.
Nice.
All right. Okay, so we found this long play video that we double-checked, does have the best ending. So we want to thank AL82 Retro Gaming Long Plays for this video. We're going to watch just the end section in double speed and might even skip ahead after this chunk just to see how he gets through the kind of maze-like elevators, computers, and which room thing. So he appears, he runs immediately, or tries to go. Again, the level is locked until you beat these arbitrary enemies. But he just runs to... Oh yeah, sound. No point having sound on if it's double speed. That just sounds bad. Alright, there we go. So, yeah, you have to beat all the enemies. So it must not be randomized, I would assume. Or he just used like an emulator and retried until he got the luck he needed. And you were mentioning before we started recording this, like, that giant computer console doesn't even look like something that you're supposed to destroy. Like, okay, so it does seem there's only one computer per floor, because he just immediately, when he left that room, he went to, and again, was this the middle room? I'm not paying enough attention. Whatever room he just went into, it's probably always the same. And then I'm assuming as soon as he's done with this floor, I think there's one more floor, one level down, and then he has to go all the way back up. So let's see. Yeah. But this player is much more experienced. So he went up. So it's only two computers. It's only two computers on two floors. It just feels like it goes on forever and it's a giant labyrinth if you don't know what you're doing. But that really does especially feel like, even though that's obviously in the Japanese version too, it feels like punishment against people that are just renting the game. They want you to own the game and have played it enough that you can actually have fun because now the timer is like a non-issue because you know where to go, you know what to do. You know what I mean? Especially back in the day too, they really could have experimented marketing-wise with offering people more swag for buying the game, or even making the rental cartridges a special version that's like, oh, the third unlockable character you can't use. You know what I mean? Like you can't, stuff like that, so that there's real incentive to buy the game. Those would have been much cooler ways, I think, of handling it than just ruining the whole American version of the game. For everyone, just because rental is a thing. All right. So anyway, yeah, we're just going through. So that was the big thing we wanted to discover was how do you get past that timer in a surefire way? So then you're just fighting through a kind of forest level. We'll just skip through, and then you make it to the real end area robot factory, and then you have to fight the super mega tough boss. I guess that's the real boss is the mad scientist back. I don't know. But at any rate, the final boss you fight is this robot. I guess I'll turn it to regular speed now. And turn on the sound. There we go. But yeah, this player has way more experience and got past the frustration levels and is much better at playing the game. So again, if you want to see a nice playthrough, unfortunately it's only one player, but you know, if you want to see someone that knows what they're doing and seems to actually enjoy the gameplay, then check out this guy's long play. But anyway, yeah, so I'll skip most of this fight actually and just do the ending, and then we'll just silently watch the ending, I guess. Or most, yep. Yep. The nice song from Streets of Rage. You can't hear it, but the Streets of Rage 2 song. Very nice. I think it's slightly remastered. But it's like the quintessential, every Streets of Rage fan, it's like the song they know and associate immediately with Streets of Rage as a franchise. So. Yeah, the portrait work for like the in-game dialogue for the cutscenes was pretty darn nice, and these Zan and Blaze look decent, but man, what's going on with Axel's profile there? Yeah, they gave him kind of a Mick Jagger mouth. Maybe Mick Jagger was really popular back then. Let's see. And then, does this have the Japanese or the American splash screen? Oh, it's good, it's Japanese. I had seen a big portrait of Alex. Is it really not in the splash screen? Oh, is that? There's no way that's only for the American version. Oh, who knows? If I find it, I'll edit it in, but it's like a big full-screen pixel art portrait of Axel. And his face looks really weird there too. I'll see if I can find it and splice that in. But anyway, there it was. There was Bare Knuckle 3, aka Streets of Rage 3. The quality of the game overall is very high. If you know what to do, which is easy these days with just like we did long plays and game facts and stuff like that, the whole timer thing won't be so bad. Especially these days with save states and you could just retry a million times. Yeah, I think the theme to this video is kind of inadvertently until now is that Christmas list syndrome. They felt like they had to outdo the past game in trivial ways. The plot has to be more crazy. You know what I mean? Like, they put a lot of work into the technicality of the game, making sure that it technically is more impressive. There's like more bigger animated sprites, more, you know, things like that, but not necessarily more fun. So even if you have a bigger team and a bigger budget and more time, the more of the development time is being spent on those kind of Christmas list-like things, the less time they can spend on really refining and perfecting what really matters, which is the gameplay. And in this case, I would say also, just like that Christmas list of, we've got to outdo it, the plot needs to be more needs to be at stake, just like Hollywood movie sequels, you know what I mean? And I think falling into that trap, which is kind of a combination marketing and just like, oh, we need to outdo it, I think that's really what made the game suffer the most. But anyway, thanks very much for watching, and stay tuned for other videos.
If you enjoy our content and want to keep up to date on our games, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support our projects, consider becoming a patron. The link's in the description, and we'll see you soon.